Morning, good evening, everyone. Welcome. And we have our student Apurv Tangri, who just matched in the season 2022. And he has gone through his set of challenges. And we wanted to sit down with him and understand what these were and how he overcame. And therefore, what can applicants in the coming seasons do based on his experience. So welcome, Apurv. Glad to have you and congratulations on your match.
Thank you so much, Pawan. It's great to be here as well. And thank you so much for your guidance throughout. I really appreciate all this. It's actually surreal. I still cannot believe it. I think it'll take some time.
Yes, of course it will. So let's start with your background, your college, where are you from, and the journey in brief.
Sure. So I graduated in 2017 from Kasturba Medical College, Manipal, India. Of course, it's been almost 5 years since I graduated. So I am what you would technically call like a older graduate. But after that, I had hit some roadblocks in my USMD journey. And so I decided research was very, very important for me. So in 2017, I relocated to the United States and I started doing research at, first I started off at Indiana University, and recently I've been associated with Rush University in Chicago. And yeah, I think all this while I've just been doing research, focusing on clinical experiences, and here we are today.
Okay, so let's focus on your challenges, right? So you obviously tried last year, didn't work out. So in the last 3 or 4 years, what were the major challenges you identified which were preventing you from matching?
Sure, that's a great question. So the first thing, and I want to come out with this because I hope this video will give inspiration to everyone who is fighting still. I do not have stellar scores. My step one was like 220s. My step two CK was 210s. And I had 2 attempts on my CS, so I passed it the third time. I performed decently well on my step 3. I had like 230, but other than that, didn't have that great of a score. So this was my significant challenge because nowadays we are seeing that most of the IM programs, especially the competitive ones, even non-competitive ones, they have a cutoff of 240 in each of the exam. And so every time I would apply, I started applying in 2019. I got 2 interviews, and I know for sure they were courtesy interviews because a lot of people had put in a word for me. Of course, I did not match then. Second time I applied again. Again, I got 1 courtesy interview and 1 was a solid interview. But so talking about the challenges, I think the first thing was having those attempts made my application filter out. That's number 1. Number 2, even if someone was looking past those attempts, my scores weren't that stellar. So I think the ranking was becoming a problem. 3, I think my interview skills weren't that great. These are the problems that I had identified this time around. Okay. So eventually then I was like, okay, I think I need professional help. I was running out of options as well. I had visa issues and everything of that sort going on. So that's when I joined USMD Sarthi, and I had access to a lot of resources. Will definitely help me this time.
What about US clinical experience? You were doing research. How did you complement USCE, or was that a challenge with full-time research?
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up. So at first, what I would do is I work in a research lab, and so that was another downside. Even though it was getting me publications, but the downside was I wasn't facing any patients. Now I wanted to do only internal or family medicine. something related to patients, right? And so I quickly learned that, I should try to get as much of clinical experience as well. So I worked it out so that I would do rotations in the morning at Rush itself, just because I had the access. They do not have a formal observership or anything like that, but I was able to do it just because the mentors were kind to me. I gained a strong letter through that. So I think that gave me a very, very good clinical experience this time around. And yeah, in my internship year before I graduated, I did 4 months of my USCE as well here in the United States.
Yeah, so
So
that may have
overall,
helped as well.
right. So all these, I would say, combined, I had 3 years of extensive clinical experience in various university and community hospitals.
Okay.
It was tough, definitely, but when you want something, I guess you just have to go out there and get it.
Yeah. And so that's a very good overview of the challenges you faced, as a visa seeking applicant, with attempts and all. So now tell us how you planned this particular season after two unsuccessful attempts at match. How was the planning for this season?
Sure. So first off, I would like to tell all the viewers, it's not easy. When you break down every time, your morale just goes down, and it's very difficult to get back up. But if you muster the strength, you can get back up, and when you get back up, you get back up stronger. So this time, of course, I looked up a few options, and I found that USMD Sarthi was a potential option as well. And I knew someone from before, who had joined USMD Sarthi, and they had great experiences to share about it too. So without giving it much thought, I just joined USMD Sarthi as well. Um, Now, of course, there were certain things, like I mentioned before. My CV was relatively full of translational research and basic research. And so I recognized that, that is a problem for the program directors of clinical medicine.
Mm-hmm.
That was number one. Number two, I needed stronger letters, because up until this point I had used two research letters and two internal medicine letters, which I don't think in today's time is a good way to go about it. I feel you should have all the internal medicine letters, but if not, but at least three, which are stronger ones. So I worked with different people in different clinics. I gathered more letters. Um, Third, I saw that I had, even though I had a lot of clinical experience, I did not write it or present it in my CV the way it should be. I think what helped me the most was the extensive guided preparation videos that USMLE Sarthi team has. Each and every video, I listened to them 2 times, 3 times until I would get it. I worked with my mentor to see where I can improve, what all I can work with. I reached out to my alumni this time, and I was fortunate enough to have met an alumni who was working on a few quality improvement projects, which I think a lot of program directors really look at. And so, taking all these things, combining all these things together, I applied, and it was amazing. Last time and year before that, I had just 2 interviews on each cycle. This year, I landed 8 interviews.
Okay.
Of course, yeah. Of course, I had 5 interviews in internal medicine and 3 in family medicine, but just landing the more number of interviews definitely boosts your confidence.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you got the interviews. Now talk to us about the interview preparation and how you navigated the season after application.
Sure. So after application, my strategy was a bit different, and I think we talked about this as well. Usually, the interview prep should start early, and I 100% recommend everybody, don't wait till the last minute. Just make sure as soon as you submit your application, maybe even before that, just start preparing for interviews because they can literally land anytime. And as we'll discuss, 3 of my interviews were like this. So once I submitted my application, I my approach was that, okay, I have X number of experiences in my CV. By the time I get to my first interview, I want to have that many number of experiences so that I have a lot more to talk about than what is already on my CV. So I wanted to play it like that. And so I wanted to schedule all my interviews in January. That would give me time to work on more research, and I did. I did almost 5 projects after I submitted between September through December. And B, it would give me a lot more time to prepare very extensively for interviews. So, of course, I went through all the interviews, all the interview material on USMLE Sarthi website, and I made almost, I would say, a 40-page document. Each and every question, I jotted down my responses, how I would navigate it. And since I had 8 interviews, I had to make some questions I had to make customized answers for each of them so that when I am there, I don't just tell them something generic.
Yep.
But this definitely worked in my favor. But like in January, I had five scheduled interviews, but it so happened that 3 of the programs had a cancellation, and they wanted to get in touch with me. In fact, I had been working with one of the programs, and that is actually where I matched. They had a cancellation, and they called me up to offer me an interview, and the interview was offered for just the next day. So imagine if I had not prepared for the interview, I would have probably bombed it. But I just strategized so that I could prepare very well. And I mean, you have to. So there is something here. You have to play your strength. Are you a person who can come up with impromptu answers, or do you need extensive preparation? I am a person who needs extensive preparation, and that's why I wanted to do all my interviews in January. And so, yeah, this was my strategy this year.
Yeah, very good. Now, if you were to summarize your experiences and challenges, what would you say your top recommendations would be for applicants applying in the coming seasons? And, there are a lot of students who have similar profile, maybe lower scores, maybe other challenges, applying for multiple years. What would be your 3 or 4 major recommendations?
Sure. What I have recognized as what worked for me, right? When you have red flags on your CV, unfortunately, this is how the game is played right now. I don't know how it'll be 5 years from now, 10 years from now, but right now, scores matter everything. I know people who had 20 plus interviews, 30 plus interviews, whereas in the last 2 seasons, I did not even used to get one interview on my own. So the number one thing is you need to really tap into your alumni and your contacts. You need to make sure that you're in constant touch with them, because you never know who will open the door for you. And on this subject, I would like to share my story. So how I got into this program that I matched at, this was a friend who used to work with me at Rush in my lab. And they matched at this program. And I didn't know them from before, from my med school. I had met them at Rush. And once they matched, I kept in constant touch with them. And this year, they wanted to do a research project with the endocrinology team. And they put me in touch with them. And turned out that the person who was working with me was the associate program director of the program. And so technically, you can imagine if you perform well in front of them, they're definitely going to vouch for you. And that is what you need. So the best way ahead is to find opportunities which which get you in touch with people who are somehow connected within the system. Second thing is, I would say make sure have a very focused application, especially if you're considering a clinical branch. There wasn't a single interview in which my clinical experiences and research wasn't mentioned, and I feel that was because of this extensive, you know. I mean, I had just been constantly working towards it. I had a lot of issues and I didn't get enough sleep or whatever it was. But at the end of the day, I just wanted clinical medicine and I just kept on gaining experience about that. Three, I would say make sure that wherever you go, whomever you join, your CV, it should reflect what you learned in in those rotations, not just that you did this or you did that. It really needs to help you translate into how that would help a program director if you were to match in that program. And four, I would say have a very solid support system. This journey is very unpredictable, but it will happen. And so if you just keep going on, have a very good support system so that when you break down, that system doesn't break down and it helps you get back up. And these are just my 2 cents.
Ah, thank you very much, Apoorv. This was very impressive. I'm sure this will be very inspiring for many students who are going into the match next season. So thank you and good luck for your residency.